Something that I really love about you is that we work in mathematical probability because I like that math provides a specific answer. And so we break it down into the probabilities of if you reach out to this many people and approximately 50 of them respond, and if out of those responses you invite those people to a group coaching call and approximately 50% of them will say yes. And then approximately 85% of them show up. Approximately 80% of those people that show up to the call book a consultation call, and approximately 35% of those people sign up for your program. If we work with that probability math, then we know how many initial contacts we need to send out, how many people need to come to our group coaching calls, how many offers we need to make to get to our client.
Ellie, thanks again for doing this. Welcome to this conversation. I'm super excited to go a little bit deeper into your journey, our experience working together, and for people to hear more of you, because I think you are very inspirational, and there's probably a lot of people that aspire to build a business like you. I know that it's a roller coaster, but you're amazing. We'd love for us to start before OVNI. Tell me a little bit more about where you were in your business before we started working together. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
how long ago you started thinking about being a career coach? When did you start getting clients? Walk us through that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't do that without first thanking you for the opportunity to be here. I'm so glad that I pulled the trigger and made you my business coach because it's been just everything I could have asked for and more. So thank you. So let's get into how I started my business and the story behind that. I started my career as a recruiter after being rejected from grad school with no expectation that I would be rejected from grad school because I had a great GPA and a lot of leadership experience. And I thought I was a perfectly qualified candidate. And I was rejected from that. And I realized, okay, I need to start a career. And luckily, very fortunately, the company I was working for was looking for a recruiter at that time. And so I was able to be hired internally, which is fantastic because they never would have even looked at me twice, if looked at me once without that experience of having already worked there. So worked in recruiting and through recruiting got opportunities to do volunteer career coaching through the community colleges that were in the area. Started doing that and just loved it. And what's really funny is the first time I was asked if I would be willing to do some volunteer career coaching, my initial thought was, how can I get out of this? How can I say no? What can I say that is like, I have an event, I can't make it. But then there was a tiny little voice in my head that was like, no, you're going to go. You're going to go and you're not going to make an excuse. You're going to go. And I went and I was so nervous because I didn't think I had anything to share. And then it just all flowed out of me so easily. And I just loved it. And then I got my master's in IO psychology. And IO psychology stands for industrial organizational psychology, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point because that's now my niche. And through after doing my master's, I started some work in that field doing workforce analytics. And I was asked a question by a coworker, which was, what would you do if you won the lottery? And my answer was, well, I wouldn't stop working because I am just a worker bee through and through. So what I would do is I would probably go to high schools and colleges and teach students how to interview because that's the thing that really lights me up. And so that was the initiation for the business because I thought about that answer for so long, and held on to it for a really long time and then just couldn't stop thinking about it. And so then started as an interview coaching business, then became a zillennial, which is like Gen Z millennial, which is my where I put myself in that generation. And then when I came to you, so that started the business in October of 2022, excuse me. So that was 2 years ago. And then came to you about a year ago because I was in a place of just pure confusion about what I should do next. It was, should I start a YouTube channel? Should I do a course? Should I stay on Instagram? I was on Instagram at the time. What should I do about LinkedIn? There was just a million different options in my head, and I had no idea which one of them would work. And you were the first person who actually just gave me an answer. I think a lot of the advice that I was being given at the time was just a whole line of questioning of like, what do you really want? And what's your story? And how can you have some impact? And all of that stuff is really great. And I think it has a purpose. But I think with where I was at that time, with being so confused about what my future would be, you were the one that finally gave me clarity. And so that was why I decided to work with you. So that's where I was at before we started working together. And then now we are now we are
I
here,
do
no
want to
longer
say something
confused.
there though. I only said that to you, but I did ask you tons of questions before I gave it. It's not like,
Of
hey Ellie,
course.
nice to meet you, do this.
Of
It was
course.
more like, what are your goals? What are your aspirations? And then I said, well, if that's what you want to do, here's how like the path of less resistance will look like. Um, what would you say is the biggest struggle that you were having before starting working together?
Mm. I would say it was lack of clarity on what I was going to do. It was, I knew I wanted to be a career coach. So that was already it. It was just a matter of how I wanted to deliver.
Yeah.
Did I want to be a content creator? Did I want to be a course creator? Did I want to be a one-on-one coach? Did I want to be a group coach? So that was my biggest struggle, was just how did I want to deliver the value that I have?
Okay. And what would you say was your initial business goals before working together? If what were you trying to accomplish while working together?
Right. And you and I have talked about this a lot, that my business is a lifestyle
Yeah.
business. That is the overall goal. It's to, um, I don't necessarily want millions and millions of dollars. I didn't want employees. I just wanted to be able to be happy every day and do the work that I love to do. And so it was to make at minimum 70K a year. But ideally wanted to be at the 100K a
Yeah.
year um, goal, and wanted to be working with about 50 clients a year. And I actually didn't have a niche at that time, so I also didn't know what that looked like either. But that was the overall goal, was to just make about $100,000 a year, work no more than 40 hours a week, be able to travel a little bit, have a lifestyle business, as we
Play
call it.
ultimate frisbee,
Play ultimate
hang out with
frisbee.
your cats.
Yes. Yeah.
Ellie, what would you say are some of the key transformations or aha moments that you had in your business from the time we've been working together?
There's probably 100, but for the sake of time, I'll break it down to two. The first one that comes to mind for me is the implementation of group coaching calls, which are essentially live events where I can bring prospects in, teach them something, transform something in them to then prompt them to book a consultation call or a sales call with me. I had been putting that off for a long time, not for the typical reasons that people put it off, which are often, not wanting to do public speaking, being scared, not sure what to say. I knew all of those things. For me, it was, I don't want to spend time on this. I do not want to waste my time on this if it's not going to work. So that's part of why I like working with you so much, is because you have done it yourself. You know with certainty that it works. And so that was the first one. And then the second one is what we're currently working through now, which is build your system, get it working. Already done that, but then keep it working. And so that's what we're working on now.
That is the second question I have for you is how did the systems and processes that we've helped put into your business transform the way you do your business?
Something that I really love about you is that we work in mathematical probability. I have a math brain. That was initially why I got my master's in industrial organizational psychology, was so that I could go into data analytics. Because I like that math provides a specific answer. And so we break it down into the probabilities of, if you reach out to this many people and approximately 50 of them respond, and if out of those responses you invite those people to a group coaching call, and approximately 50% of them will say yes, and then approximately 85% of them show up, approximately 80% of those people that show up to the call book a consultation call, and approximately 35% of those people sign up for your program. If we work with that probability math, then we know how many initial contacts we need to send out, how many people need to come to our group coaching calls, how many offers we need to make to get to our client goal, our number of client goal. Um, and so when we break it down into that mathematical probability, it takes out the fear that it might not happen. And I now teach that same math probability to my job seekers.
Yeah.
How many applications you do, how many interviews you're going to get, and how many offers you're going to get. That's a very simplified version, but um, when we work with that mathematics, we're working with something solid and concrete, unlike um, the fluffier things that cause us some anxiety and fear, because we can't validate them because they're not mathematical.
Yeah, I think that's the best part about really building a business based on systems and processes because it generates more predictability. It's not
Mm-hmm.
always going to be perfect. You're not always going to like it, you get some really good averages, and so yeah, one week will be better than others, one month will be better than others. But you can really have an understanding of what you can predict and what you can expect, and so that's fantastic. What would you say? How did your your revenue, your client base, your business change as working together?
Yeah. So I think we titled our workshop together perfectly, from zero clients to sold out within
Yeah.
6 months, because that's exactly what happened. Was I went from zero clients at all, at least not career coaching clients. I had consulting clients, but zero career coaching clients, to completely sold out in 6 months. And a lot of people have asked me, well, what does sold out look like? That was 25 clients in a matter of 6 months. And as I just mentioned before, my goal was 50 clients in a year.
Yeah.
So getting 20 to 25 clients within 6 months, very exciting. That meant uh, more money in my bank account than I've ever seen in my life. Um, but while those numbers are really exciting, I think what really happened was I transformed into what felt like a real business owner at the time. And I gained a confidence in myself that I'd never experienced before. And I also got to impact a lot of people and change some lives for the clients that I work with. Um, and so there's a lot of joy in there outside of just the numbers.
Yeah. How would you say that this transformation that you're speaking about affected you in your personal life?
Oh, totally. Yeah, so as I was just mentioning, like just increasing my confidence as a business owner, I think that for a while, I would say for about the first year of my business, it just felt really like tingly when I would talk about being a business owner and the fact that I own my own career coaching business. And then when people challenged me on, well, how do you make money doing that? How do you get clients? And what's your niche? For that first year, it felt like my answers were just changing all the time.
Yeah.
And so I kind of felt like a liar. But I wasn't lying. It was just that things were just changing so
Yeah.
dynamically and so quickly.
They were true when you were saying
Yes.
them.
Yes. But they were only true for that 20 minutes.
Yeah.
um, and so then once that happened and I actually saw some real traction through working the system, that was when the answers started to become consistent and it started to feel real. Um, and it also built up this resilience in me that led me to where I'm at now, which is, even though I might have some dips, I might have some falters, that I am completely certain that I can always lean back on the system and it will always work.
Yeah.
And so I don't feel as much fear as I used to in the past.
Love it. What would be some of the most challenging times or spots that you've been in your business, and how have you overcome them?
Mm. The first one that comes to mind was about 3 months after we started working together, because I was implementing the system. I was doing the group coaching calls.
Yeah.
I was having really good sales calls too. And I was getting really, really, really close. And it reminds me so much of my clients when they get really, really close in their interviews and they get really excited and they start to feel like they have the job.
Yeah.
And then they're unfortunately rejected or ghosted.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like that for me because I was getting either rejected or ghosted.
Yep.
And so it was how I describe it to my clients, and then thus how I have described it to myself to get through it myself, is that it's a mountain. You're climbing a mountain.
Yep.
And it's just, the mountain is a lot bigger and a lot longer than you thought it would be, but you still can get to the top. You just have to be patient. I've never ever called myself a patient person. If I have, I was probably joking because I'm not a patient person whatsoever. And so that comes to mind as one of the most challenging times for me. It was about 3 months in, just not seeing the results yet and being like, I'm implementing this system, I'm seeing only a little bit of result. And there was no one thing, there was no hack, there was no somebody telling me something. There was no breakthrough. It was just staying consistent and pushing through that that feeling of not failure, because it wasn't failure because I hadn't given up. It was that feeling of uh stress, anxiety, fear, pushing through that to ultimately get to the place where I did see all the clients come through and the system did start you know, providing some output. So that's the first one that comes to mind. And then I think the second one is actually what I'm going through right now is but it's so different what I'm going through right now and what I was going through then, because then it was a matter of, can I make this work? Will I stay a business owner? Do I have to go back to my job? Now it's like those questions aren't really in the picture. It's more of just, okay, how am I going to get through this? Yeah. So it's different challenges, different levels of challenge, but and different solutions.
What role did us working together, help with overcoming some of those challenges?
Mm, this is such a good question, and this is something I think about a lot. Of when I first started my business, I was so silly, and I thought I would never need a business coach. I was like, I can figure out anything. I will just put in the hours. I'll read all the books. I'll watch all the videos so I can figure out anything that I need to. But what working with a coach does, and this was maybe something I realized with my first coach that I ever had, was that I no longer have to be perfect anymore because there's somebody who will give me feedback. I just have to get things done. And I think this is what a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, is that we are maybe a little bit more perfectionistic. And so we try to get it done perfectly the first time. And that slows us down a lot. So through working with a coach in general, and I'll get into how you specifically helped, but working with a coach in general allows you to execute minus perfection, because through the work with your coach, you'll achieve perfection. But at least you can execute and get something done. But where you specifically have helped me out is the fact that you have done it before. And so if I come to you with what I feel like is just a specific challenge that only I have ever faced, you tell me about 3 clients who you've had who've done the same thing. And so, and I wasn't getting that with with previous business coaches that I was working with, who were excellent and wonderful in their own ways. It's just they didn't have that specific level of experience that you had, to tell me that, yeah, my story is not special. And here's the solution to it, because I went through it too.
Love it. Let's transition into more advice for career coaches, or maybe just starting out, or maybe feel like they're plateaued in their business, or feeling stuck. What are some advice that you would be giving them?
Right. Whenever anyone asks me this question, I frame it as like, what would I go and tell myself,
Yeah.
back in time? And I think this is what I will title my book or TED Talk if I ever write one, which is quit quitting. Quit quitting. So if you quit quitting, that will be your last time ever quitting anything. Um, and I am the type of person where if something is not going exactly as I want it to, I would rather cross it all off, clear the table, start completely over again, than just adjust. And that has unfortunately caused me to waste a lot of time just rebuilding and redoing the same work that I've already done before, and getting burnt out through just doing that same boring work because it's boring because I've already done it before. And so I think quitting my job was a good choice, because it allowed me to focus on the business. But quitting on quitting on ideas, or quitting on myself, um, it would just be, yeah, quit quitting, and just push through, because if you push through, then that's where you're going to see something truly magnificent. And so when we talked about that 3 month mark for us, if I had quit then, I never would have seen the outcome, that I have now, and I never would have gotten to this place that I have now. It would have been comfortable to do that then. It would have been such a relief to just go back to work and make a consistent income. um, but I wouldn't be the same person, powerful person that I am today, if I hadn't, if I had quit. So quit quitting. That's what it is.
Last question. If someone's watching this and they're a career coach and they're considering working with me, and and they're having doubts, they should do it or they should not. What would be your advice? knowing after been working with us for the time that we've been working with us?
Mm.
What would you advise?
Hmm. See, this is good because I have talked to a lot of
Yeah,
your clients who are on the fence.
yeah,
And and I think there's one thing is like they just want to know that they're not getting scammed.
yeah,
Which is completely valid.
yeah,
So talking to somebody else who's outside of the company is always nice. Hmm. You know, I think that this is going to sound very reductionary, but I feel like often you really do know. You know whether you're going to go forward or not.
yeah,
It's not going to be a matter of time. It's not going to be a conversation. It's not going to be a fact or a figure that makes the decision for you. You can feel it. And if you take the time to sit there and feel it, you'll realize. Um again, I know that sounds so reductionary and there's no like step-by-step plan for that. There's no methodology for that, but um I sometimes think you just know. And don't put it off. Don't put it off. Like just decide. If I violent here, if I put a gun to your head and I said decide right now, what would you decide?
yeah.
Would you pull the trigger? Hopefully I wouldn't pull the trigger. But would you pull the trigger and say yes, or are you saying no? Like if you had to decide right now, what would it be? Um and I think sometimes when I ask people that question, they're like, well, I don't know. And I don't know. And it's like put the stakes on and decide.
Your gut tells you. There's a gut feeling.
Exactly.
There's a book called Blinkist that like tells you like people make a gut decision and more accurately than if you actually had all the data.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So let's say they are like, okay, I'm gonna do it. What would be their advice to get the most out of the program?
Oh, execute, weirdo. Like just stop looking for all the answers and stop consuming content and start executing. I This is the biggest thing that I see with business owners, specifically with the career coaches I worked with, is they're so busy consuming.
Yeah.
What is this new idea? What did they do? And they come and ask me questions, and I'm happy to help them, but ultimately they are not going to learn until they do it themselves. You have to execute, and this is why I've been successful with you, is because everything you've told me, I have trusted you, and it's not just you; it's your team too. Um, and I trust that you have my best intentions in mind, so I go and I execute. And I don't make excuses.
Yeah.
I don't make excuses. I go and I execute, and if I need to adjust, I'll make adjustments. Like, oh, I thought I could get this done today, but it doesn't look like I can get done today, so my adjustment is that I will get it done on Monday. um but it's not, oh, I couldn't get to this, so I'll let you know when I do.
Yeah.
Stop making excuses, start executing.
And I think that's you get the most out of any coaching program, whether it's through OPNI or how you would want your clients that come in working with you in your career coaching services to want to execute your advice, because that's how they're going to get the result, right? Like you build a program intended to be executed. How are you going to expect to get the result if you're not executing? Ellie, I want to thank you again for this, for sharing your journey, for sharing everything you've gone through, and just your positive energy all the time. You're amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, no, thank you.